This is not my cup of tea. We'll create this the way we are good at, and you know what is that? We'll create this effect in Photoshop. Hi everyone, welcome back to Dexplorion. If you are new to this channel, I'm DD and this channel is all about designing in Photoshop and sharing the process with you. And in the process, we will discuss various tools, techniques and tips and tricks which will improve your workflow and level up your graphic design key. Creating the effect is not very hard, but the process is tedious and repetitive, and we have to have patience and be focused because we have to work with many layers and elements, and we might have to work with each of these layers multiple times. But for the sake of better understanding, I have divided the whole process into 7 steps and tried to make it as simple as possible. Here you can find the steps along with the timestamp. And now let's not waste any more time and get to the process. We'll start by setting up the canvas, and unless you are in a country like North Korea, you have the complete freedom of choosing any size of a canvas you want, and I will be going with the A4 size canvas. Unlike other time, we will be working on the background at the starting, and for that I will be adding a gradient adjustment layer, and click here to open the gradient editor. Click on this handle and then click here to open the color picker and select the first color. I'll be using a shade of blue this time. Then we'll click here and make the opacity of the second color 100% and hit OK. Now we'll be changing the style to radial. The second color seems too dark, so I am going to change it to a similar shade of blue but darker than the first one. We are done with the background, and in our next step we will work on our image. We'll drag in our image onto the canvas. For today's effect, we don't need the image, just the vector shape of the main subject. There are many ways to do that. The most popular way of doing that is with the pen tool, where we make selection with it, but as you know, using the pen tool is a little bit time-taking process, so we are going to use a different method. We'll click on any of this selection tool, preferably the quick selection tool, and then click on select subject. It has done a pretty good job. There might be some areas where it can miss out, but we don't have to worry about that, especially in this case because we are not going to use this image. We'll then click on select here, then modify and click on smooth. The selection might be jagged in some places. We don't want to take any chances and we want to make the selection clean and smooth. And so we'll set the radius to a moderate number of 10 and click OK. What it will do is smooth out the whole selection by 10 pixels. And now we go to Paths tab here and click here to create a new work path. Come back to Layers tab, create a solid color adjustment layer, set a color. I will be using a shade of yellow. A new separate color fill layer is created with the silhouette of our subject, and now if you want you can delete the image layer because we no longer need it. We'll rename the color fill layer as subject and position it at the center of the canvas and move on to the next step to draw some shapes with the pen tool. We'll right click on the pen tool and select the curvature pen tool. Why? Because the shapes I will be making are all curves and there are no corners. If you are still struggling with the pen tool and find it a little overwhelming, then I have a video just for you. In that video, I have covered all the aspects of the pen tool and I'm sure you will find it helpful, and I hope you know where to find it in the I button above and in the description as well. And now let's continue with our today's task. Make sure we have the shape selected here. We'll start making the shape like this. I am trying to make a shape which will resemble a human brain. We'll hold the Alt or Option key and click and drag these anchor points to make changes to the shape. We can also delete some of the points if you feel it to be too much, and for that we have to select the normal pen tool, and then when we place the cursor above one of these points, a small minus sign appears. Just click to delete it. Hold the Alt or Option key and click and drag to move these handles. Hold the Control or Command key and click and drag to move these anchor points. And you can go on with the process till you are satisfied. I'm done, and now we'll double click on the icon of the shape layer to change its color. I will pick the color from the background itself and make the shade lighter and hit OK. And now following the same process, we'll make some more shape layers. I think this much will be enough, and now we'll be doing some masking. For that, I will first make a selection of the shape 1 layer by holding the controller command key and clicking on the icon, and add a layer mask to the shape 2 layer, and it will mask out the extra areas and only keep the overlapping areas which comes within the selection, and we will do the same for the other 2 shape layers. There are still some areas of the shape 3 layer which needs to be masked, so we'll activate the selection of the shape 1 layer. We have to mask the outside area, so we will press controller command plus shift and I to inverse the selection, and then take the brush tool and keep the foreground color black. Select the layer mask of the shape 3 layer. Make the brush size bigger by pressing the right square bracket and paint like this to hide, and we are done. Press controller command D to deselect. I will draw one more shape here. In the next step, we'll be adding some effects to the shape layer. First, we'll select the subject layer and double click here on the blank space to open the layer style dialog box, and click on inner shadow, which will be the star of today's show. And you can play with all these sliders. As I always say, experiment. Just make sure to turn on the use global lighting so that the shadows of all the layers are aligned in the same way. Then we'll add an outer glow. Most of the things I will keep it as it is because I want it to be a subtle one, and then we'll also add bevel and emboss. The style will be outer bevel, and then hit OK. I will do some more fine tuning of these 3 effects. I think this much will be fine. And now we'll be applying these effects to other shape layers, and for that we have a trick to easily do it. Hold the Alt or Option key and click and drag on the effects here, and just drop on the other shape layers, and boom, it's applied on that layer as well. We'll do the same for the other shape layers. Now we have to make some changes to the effects of these shape layers, like we will change the color of the shadows. I will select a darker shade of the same blue color, and we will do the same for the other shape layers also. After that, we will group all these layers together by holding the Shift key and clicking on the topmost and bottommost layer, and press Ctrl or Command G and rename it as Shapes. And in the next step, we will be adding some elements within the shape layers. I've chosen photographer or photography as the theme of this poster, and that's why I'll be using some of the images related to the same. You can decide your theme and choose your elements accordingly. The elements will have the same paper cutout effect. For that, I will be using the subject in this image, and we will turn it into a shape in the same process as we did in the step 2. The selection here is not accurate and we have to refine it a little, so we'll add a layer mask to it and then refine it with the help of the brush tool. It's done, and now we'll activate the selection of the layer mask by holding the controller command button and clicking on the layer mask, and repeat the same process as we did in the step 2. And select the white color and rename the layer as photographer. Go back to the move tool, and now we'll resize it and place it here like this. We then add a layer mask to it, and with the brush tool, select a soft round brush. We will paint like this. Then we open the layer styles of the layer and add a drop shadow and adjust the sliders as per the need and preference. If you can see here, we have to remove the shadow in this area, and how are we going to do that? There is a way. We'll click here on the drop shadow and click on create layer, and now the shadow is on a separate layer. Link these 2 layers first, and when we add a layer mask to the shadow layer and using the brush tool, we will mask out the shadow. I'll be adding 2 more elements in the same process. I'll be adding 3 more elements, but this time it's not like the images we have just used, but there are some vector images in the form of PNGs, which I have downloaded from pngimage.com. I'll be providing you the link of all the images in the description. Let's bring one of them onto the canvas and resize and position it. I'll put it here and open the layer style of the layer and give it a color overlay. We'll change its color to the same yellow as we used earlier and then add the drop shadow, and now it looks like the extension of the yellow subject layer. If you want, you can add a layer mask to it and select a soft round brush and paint over this area to blend it a little more. If you want, lower the flow also. I'll bring 2 more elements into our composition and repeat the same process. And now we'll group all the element layers and rename it. Lastly, we'll convert the subject layer into a smart object, add a layer mask to it and grab the brush tool, and with a soft round brush we'll mask this portion like this. I'll adjust the gradient a little bit, and for that we'll double click here to open the gradient fill again and adjust the position of the gradient like this. And we are done with the subject composite, and in the last step we'll be adding some text to our poster. I don't think I need to explain this part because I haven't applied any special effects to the text of this poster, and I believe you are now able to do it of your own. But if you are still in the learning phase and want to know more about adding text, you can watch my other videos, and you can even slow down this part of the video to follow along. And here we have our poster. Designing this poster was really fun and I'm quite happy with the results. What do you think? Please let me know in the comments down below, and also let me know if I have missed something or could have done better to enhance the poster. Your suggestions will be invaluable to me and will help me to create better for you. And if you find this of any value, please share it with your friends and do subscribe to the channel for more such videos. And if you want to create a similar effect with the typography poster, then I would suggest you should watch this video.